So in the next step, we want to explore a little bit more about the reactivity from view. And for this, I want to add an input field here underneath. And in order to get an input field, we can just head over to Quasar, to the documentation, and select one from the components. So here in the view components, this is the section here, view components. There is a text input field. So the documentation shows me here the API to the text input field. When we scroll down a little bit, we have all these examples here. And there's just lots of variety of styling for these input fields. So I just picked the first one, the simple one. So I open up my source code here, and I just use the standard one. Just to make this simple, you can try out anything you like here. So I paste this into my code. The system recompiles it, and already I have an input field here on my HTML page. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to change. I want to change the label here, and so I just call this counter. Hang on. So I call this counter, and then the system recompiles, and you can see it's automatically reflected on the page. Then I want to also add a class here, because I want to make this background a little bit stand out. So I say here background is yellow, and I use a predefined class from Quasar, background yellow. So with that, the background of my field turns into yellow. I also want to make the font larger, and we have already a defined class for that, which is called large font. We have used that for the paragraph tag above. So I add here just my large font class. And with that, the entire field grows because the size of the font grows. What I want to show next is the directive of vModel, and that is really a cool thing. It shows the reactivity, or demonstrates the reactivity that the view has, and what makes it so much fun to work with. So vModel here, there's a dummy called text, and I will point this to something else. I will point this to our counter, and so our counter is here in the data section. So basically what the vModel does, it binds whatever you put between the double quotes to the name that you put between the double quotes to the name of a variable in your data section. And with that, we have what we call a two-way binding, or view calls this a two-way binding. And here's how this works. So we have our nifty button here, or our increment button. And so when I click the button, it counts up 1. We had that before, but it also then modifies the content of the input field. So I can count this further up, and you see how the input field keeps getting updated. So, but that works also now in both ways. That's why it's called two-way binding. So I can put in something else in here, and you can see that the counter gets updated. So all of a sudden it's not 4 anymore, but 4, 5, 6. If I then hit the add button, then I can increment this. This is really cool. It's a really cool feature that we will use a lot through our programming. This reactive behavior inside a page, which is similar to a spreadsheet. When you have one cell depending on another with a formula, and you update the content of a cell, all dependent other cells are getting updated automatically. And that's the reactivity that's built into this framework. The next thing I want to show you is a single file component. A single file component in Vue is a Vue file, so it has the Vue file extension that contains 3 sections. A template section that contains HTML tags, a script section that contains JavaScript, and a style section that contains CSS styles. We have something like this, or use something like this to create components, meaning reusable blocks of code that we can plug in into different sections of our application. It is very useful, and so I'm going to demonstrate this here. So for this, for our Hello World application, what I want to do is I want to create a chart component that I want to display underneath all of our other items here that I have on the page. So chart component, for that I create a new file, and so there is this icon here to create a new file, and I call this my chart, and then I use the extension view. And as you can tell here on the left side, when I create the extension view, it adds the view icon here on the left side. So when I remove the E, then it doesn't know what extension is going to be. So if I add the E again, so it's now view. This says, or the VS Code now knows this is a view file. So it basically does all and provides all the language support for it. So I enter this, I create this, and here I start with my template a tag, template tag. The template tag. Okay, so this is the first section, and between the template tags I need to add at least one HTML tag, and it's typically a div. So I added my div here, so that is my template section. Underneath this I have a script section, and then underneath that I have a style section. And so this looks like any normal HTML page. So this creates already, in essence, my single file component. So now I want to have a chart that I want to bring in here, that I want to then show on my page. Now I don't want to to create a chart basically by writing all the code to how to build a chart in JavaScript myself. So I use Google Charts. Google has a big library of chart components, not necessarily for Vue, but you can use those components in all different languages. Because it's for all different languages, I'm looking for something they can just plug into here into Vue. So somebody else wrote what we call a wrapper for those Google Charts that I can then just plug in here into my code, make the whole my life a lot easier. And in order to basically bring in an external component, I have to go out and find one. And so when I just open another browser here and I want to see View Google Charts, so there is something like this, and it's part of a library, the node libraries. So here with npm, which is the node package manager, I can go out and bring in an external component that allows me to that I can just plug into my code. This allows me to produce charts, interactive charts in my HTML page. And so this comes all with instructions here. It's really straightforward. So here's the install command for that. I just copy that, and then here in my terminal I first have to stop my application here. In my terminal I just plug this in. So I paste this in here, and then I install this module or component in my project, so it becomes available. And this is added to the nodes module folder up here. So this all is pre-configured. This all comes with the entire package, so I don't have to worry about any of this. So in order to now move this forward, it says here use local components. So basically all I need to do is copy this JavaScript and plug this into my script tag. Then I need to then I want to also to put this into my template, of course. This is my HTML. So I plug this in between the diffs. The G chart here, up here, that references the component, which in turn references the import. So with the import statement, I pull this from the nodes module library, gets pulled into my component section in the JavaScript, which in turn references the gchart tag in my template. And so I also want to have some data. And conveniently, they give us all this stuff right here. So all I need to do is copy my data. I have already an export default area in my JavaScript, so I don't want to add that. And so all I need is the data section here. So I add a comma here, and then I add my chart section here. And so with that, I have already my completed single file component. That's it. So now I need to plug this into my page, my index page, where I want to install all of this. And for this, I need to bring it in from the outside. So I have an import statement here, import, and I called this my chart. So it's like I say my chart from, and I say here with quotes, directly from, because it's in my directory, in the current directory, my chart. And I don't need the view extension because it's assumed. Then I need to add a component section here. It says components. And here I bring in my chart. And then I need to add one comma here just to complete the syntax. And now it gives me the red squiggly line here because I need to reference this in my page. So I just add this here in my page. And now here I need to change the way this is written a little bit. So I go from what's called a camel case. So my chart is what's called camel case because it has, every time you have a new word, you change the case. So you go from my, and then you have an uppercase C, and then you go with lower cases again. So in my template, I need to change that to kebab case, which basically replaces it does not replace, but you know, it signifies the upper character as a dash, and then I continue with lower characters. So with that, I bring in the my single file component. Now let's take a look whether this all works. So I need to start my Quasar again. Quasar dev. And this will actually go open up a different window. And there we have it. So the chart gets pulled in into my top level component here, into my index page. And so basically this gets pulled in, and this can be reused. So I can plug this in my chart, this single file component, I can plug in into any other components that I write, making the entire application very flexible. So it saves me a lot of time coding things. Again, it's like a Lego set. You build your own Lego set. You create the pieces that you need, and from the pieces, these Legos, you create your application. Goes really fast, is very flexible. It's a ton of fun.